This is Lesson 5 in the series, Why Not Be Rich? And it is entitled, Prosperity's Genie. Join us now for our lesson and our powerful prospering declarations. It is my Father's good pleasure. Together, it is my Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom of all good. Once again, it is my Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom of all good. Now let's drop down to number 4. God is the source. Together, God is the source of a mighty stream of substance, and I am its channel of expression. That's good. Now let's go up here to number 6 on the second sheet. Prosperity is my spiritual right. Together, prosperity is my spiritual right. I dare to prosper now. Again, prosperity is my spiritual right. I dare to prosper now. When? Now. Number 8. I release and let go. Together, I release and I let go. I am open to God's flow. I dare to prosper now. Good. And now let's go up to number 9. I freely and fully forgive. Together, I freely and fully forgive and begin to love myself and others. Forgiving and loving attracts new, rich good into my life. Good. And then number 13, my constructive, uplifting word. Okay? Together. My constructive, uplifting, fulfilling words prosper me now. That's good. And now let's go over to the last section. And by the way, we're going to have these printed up for you next week so that you can take them with you. Let's start with number 17, picturing power. Together, picturing power prospers me. Again, picturing power prospers me. Once more, picturing power prospers me. Now number 18, positive feelings. Together, positive feelings increase my prospering power. Once again, positive feelings increase my prospering power. And number 19, loving giving. Together, loving giving brings me prosperous living. Again, loving giving brings me prosperous living. Once more, loving giving brings me prosperous living. When? Now. Good. Prosperous living comes to us when we are giving in love. Now, our lesson today is entitled Prosperity's Genie. And you know, this word genie is kind of an interesting word. Most of us connect it with the genie of the lamp in Aladdin's lamp, or some idea of a big genie that's going to float up all over the place. But there's the plural of the word genie is genius. Genius. We use this word all the time, genius, and yet we don't realize that it is the plural of the word genie. That it is this idea of something that is greater and has extraordinary power to express or to manifest. There was a young man who asked his father, he says, Dad, he says, what is a financial genius? And the father said to him, well, it's a father who can earn money faster than his family can spend it. And I think we've all had that feeling that we'd like to be a financial genius and earn money faster than it could be spent. But we know, too, that we have a Father who has given us all good, and that good will manifest faster than we can experience it if we will just turn to that source and use that power which is within us. Because Jesus told us that not to fear, because he said, fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear not, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And what is the kingdom? The kingdom is that total realm of good which has been prepared for us from the very beginning of the world, and which we are to inherit, and we inherit it through using prospering powerful words invested with prospering, powerful feelings. So when we think of this idea of prosperity's genie, let's think of it as an extraordinary power to be manifested in creative ability. That we all have a genie. We all have a genie. And a genie is a spirit. Did you know a genie was a spirit? And we all have a spirit within us. And what do we call that spirit within us? We call it superconsciousness. We call it superconsciousness. And it is also the realm of deep feeling and energy. So prosperity's genie, the genie that will manifest everything that we want in our life, is truly the spirit within us invested with feeling. So it is your feeling nature that really determines how you're going to manifest your good in your life. So let's look at the genie of prosperity as being our feeling nature. Now, if our feeling nature is feeling good about prosperity, and think about that song we sang this morning, Money, Money, Money. You know, there might have been some feelings, oh my goodness, that's materialistic. That's mammon. That's serving the outer. You better check that feeling out, because money of itself is good. And money is a way that we barter with others for the good that we want in our life. It's a very necessary item for accomplishing, doing, and being the things that we want to be in the outer. There is nothing wrong with money. And I expect all of you to run around this week singing, money, 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 lots and lots of money, and really getting your feeling nature into it and really feeling good about the idea of money coming to you in the right and perfect ways to fulfill all of your needs. But a lot of times when we feel bad about this idea because we have really become attached to it and we're holding on to it. You know, we never really feel good about something when we're letting it work. Excuse me, I said that in error. Let me back up and say we never feel bad about something unless we're blocking it, unless we're blocking the flow. And then there is a resistance set up and we're attached to it. But when we really feel good is when it's flowing, when it's moving, when it's experiencing and expressing in and through us. That's when we really feel good. So prosperity's genie is the genie of positive feelings. Positive feelings that have the power to bring our good to us quickly and easily. Charles Fillmore talked about this genie. When he called it the genie, he didn't call it the genie of love, but he referred to it as the greatest attractive power. And the greatest attractive power is love. And love is the greatest of all feelings. So we might say that the genie of love is that which can bring forth our good to us quickly, easily, and peacefully. And he also said that we must use love to build a positive thought atmosphere which will attract our good to us. So we need to begin to think love, feel love, express love, and feel a good expression of love coming through us. And then we will draw to us, through us, from within us, all of the good that we desire. There's a little phrase that I like, and it says TLC. TLC. Do you all know what TLC is? Tender, loving care. Tender, loving care, which is loving yourself and loving others, will prosper you. It will bring your good to you because you are giving love, and love is the greatest attractive power in your life. So when you're loving yourself, when you're loving others, you are increasing, attracting, appreciating the good that God has prepared for you. So you can establish a thought atmosphere of love, and that will attract your good to you. You know, this idea of genie and genius really works in our lives, because I have a favorite affirmation, one that I heard many long years ago, and which has worked for me many, many times. And the affirmation is, I am a spiritual genius. I am a spiritual genius. I want you to think about that for a moment. How do you feel? Do you feel when I say you're a spiritual genius? Do you really feel you are? Do you really feel you are? Well, you are. Because you have a superconscious Christ mind, I am, which is genius, the total mind of God individualized in you as you. So you are a spiritual genius. And I used to say to myself, I'm a spiritual genius, and everything I need to know is revealed to me, through me, from within me. Everything I need to know is revealed to me, through me, from within me. And that particular affirmation has gotten me through an awful lot of tight binds. When I was a supervisor of a section working for the federal government in the Workload Coordination and Control Division of the Design Division of the Long Beach Naval Shipyard as a statistician, I had the occasion to work with a young lady who was a hypochondriac. She also wasn't prone to tell the truth all the time. And so, not telling the truth, she was really creating a lot of difficulties in the office, and because of her hypochondria, she was either off sick or she was creating things because she just wasn't well. And so, I had worked with her for a long time, and I had used every affirmation I knew. I had used every technique of working with people that I had developed over the years, and nothing was working. Nothing was working, and I just kept plugging away. I prayed about her so often that she should have changed, really quickly. But I would go to my boss, and my boss wouldn't do anything about it. I would talk to him about the situation. I said, she's just creating havoc in our section. But he would not do anything about it. He said, well, we're just going to have to work it out. We'll just have to work it out. And every time he did this, I got that pit feeling in my stomach because I knew he wasn't going to do anything. So I just kept going at it. And then one day I said, I can't do anything more, Father. And then all of a sudden my affirmation came back to me. I'm a spiritual genius, and everything I need to know is revealed to me, through me, from within me. And so I began to affirm that. I'm a spiritual genius. I'm a spiritual genius. Everything I need to know is revealed to me, through me, from within me. Now, we had been working on this problem almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. When I began to affirm this, and I began to release it and let it go. And I said, okay, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. The next morning, at 10 o'clock in the morning, the head engineer called me, and he says, Martha, he says, I want to talk to you about our problem. And I says, our problem? And he says, you know who I mean, our problem. And I said, oh, okay. I says, I have a report that has to get out by noon. Can I see you at 1 o'clock? He says, certainly. I went down and talked to him at 1 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock, he had cleared the whole thing up. And in 2 weeks, the whole situation was resolved. The young lady who found it difficult in working with other people was then put in a position where she did not have an effect upon other people. And she was doing work which was benefited her and rewarded her. And so she began to change her attitude. She began to take on responsibility for her actions and really was in a good place. And my office, which needed someone who could work and function with all of the staff that was there, was really working well. Now, when the Father works, he just doesn't go to low man on the totem pole. What did he do? He went straight to the top, to the head engineer who took care of things right away. And who is it that does those things in our life? The head engineer within us is always the superconsciousness, the higher states of consciousness within us. So if you really want things to work, turn to Spirit and let Spirit reveal to you, through you, the good that you really need and the way to accomplish that good. So we need to check our feelings anytime we're working in any situation. And remember, prosperity includes peace of mind in your office. It includes health of body. It includes harmonious relationships with all of the people that you're working with, and it includes financial good. It includes financial good. So now we're going to have an opportunity to put that idea to work. And we're going to work with an idea that I have nicknamed, Fanny Faithful's Fantastic Formula. Okay? Fanny Faithful's Fantastic Formula. Well, I did it. Well, we'll just do it this way. Now, this is Faithful Fanny. And she has a fantastic formula. Let's pull that down just a little so you can see that a little bit better. Now, Faithful Fanny's fantastic formula works like this. Now, I want you to know where Faithful Fanny's fantastic formula came from. When I was a student minister here at the school studying for the ministry, James Dillard Freeman, who is the head of Silent Unity, and at that time was the head of the school, had us do a prosperity formula. He says, now I think that every one of you is practicing prosperity, and you unconsciously have a formula in your mind that works for you. And I sat down and I wrote out my formula, and it was a little bit more simple than it is now. I've expanded it in a couple of places. But I took it into Jim, and Jim said to me, it's too simple. And I says, it works. And he says, you can't beat success. So it really does work. So let's take a look at this and check your feelings, because your feelings are what you need to get into if you're going to prosper. Now, the very first thing you need to recognize that you have a need or a desire, that a desire or a need exists in your life. You know, a lot of us in truth say, I don't have any needs. We're afraid to admit that we're not working the principles, that we're not experiencing the allness of good. So we will deny that we have a need. We will deny that we have a need. But I want you to take a new look at the word need and desire. I want you to look at it as a cup to be filled. As a cup to be filled. I want you to look at it as a way of focusing spirit. Focusing spirit. Because you cannot fill a bottomless pit, and a bottomless pit is lack. You can just keep pouring substance into it and it will never be filled. So put your cup out there. Put the cup out there. What is the need? What is the desire that you want spirit to fill? You know, we concentrate on our lack often enough, and we think nothing of stating our lack of good, our lack of health, our lack of anything that spirit can bring forth. But when it comes to stating the fact that we have a need or a desire for some good in our life, we get very fearful. And that fear is a feeling which blocks the flow of spirit and keeps it from manifesting in our life. So the very first thing that we need to know is, what do you need? Be specific. Now, remember what we said last week about being specific. When we say specific, if you want to go on a world tour, if you want to go around the world in 80 days, well, it's very good to say that you want to go around the world in 80 days, but you don't want to go around on Ozark Airlines. Because if you want to go around the world on Ozark Airlines, I think they're still on strike, aren't they? And if they're not on strike, they just don't go around the world. So what you want to do is say, I want to go around the world, but not on Ozark Airlines. I am open and receptive to the perfect way to go around the world. Then if you need money, if you need friends, if you need a new position or job in life, if there's something that you desire for your home, if you desire a new expression of health of body, peace of mind, then state it. State it. Father, this is what I need. And I advise you to work on one at a time. Don't scatter your forces so much that you can't really give your attention to it, but one at a time, because things work more quickly when you are working easily with the law. Okay? Now, once you have given your desire and said that it is there, recognize that the fulfillment exists. By the way, as you go out this morning, I'm going to give you a copy of this formula with all the little brief words behind it that will help you concentrate your thoughts. So you can just listen this morning. If there's something that strikes you and you want to write down, that's great. But remember that the fulfillment exists. The fulfillment exists in time and space, because there is an abundant supply of everything that you desire. Aren't there lots and lots of people in the world? Isn't there lots and lots of good? Isn't there lots and lots of good? You know, there's more money in the world than you can really think about. There's plenty of money. There is an abundance of work to be done. work to be accomplished. There are plenty of jobs. There is lots and lots and lots of healing life. Healing life. There is an abundance of God life that cannot be limited in any way, everywhere present in the universe. And you can draw the awareness of that to you, through you, from within you. So think about that there is a fulfillment for your desire existing in time and space already. An abundance of money, an abundance of people, an abundance of work, an abundance of good. So just know, if I really want this, it's there. It's there. And if it does not exist in time and space already, what is there? There is omnipresent mind essence, spiritual substance, infinite intelligence, which can bring that to you, through you, from within you, in new forms that have never been experienced yet in earth plane, in this realm of manifestation. So if there is a need of new awareness, it will be brought to you from infinite intelligence working through radiant substance. So the fulfillment exists. Get that feeling. Can you get that feeling? That the fulfillment for my desire exists. It really does. There's plenty of it for me to use and to experience. Now, once we have recognized that the fulfillment exists, then we really need to know that the fulfillment can come from known and unknown sources. You know, the minute we start thinking about prosperity, we begin to think of, well, maybe Aunt Fanny will leave that to me, you know. Or maybe Uncle Joe will break down and give that to me. Or maybe the boss will do this to me, do this for me. But we really need to know that, yes, our fulfillment for our desire can come from known sources, but it can come from unknown sources, because the known sources in our life may be numerous, but the unknown sources are infinite. Because God, working through us, can bring us good from infinite sources. Infinite sources. Get that feeling that God's sources are infinite, that they're infinite. One time when I was experiencing a little bit of a pinch in the old pocketbook when I was a student minister, and student ministers have a way of doing that, it was coming toward Christmas. It was coming toward Christmas, and things were not flowing just exactly the way I wanted them to do. So I began to think about this idea that fulfillment can come to me from known and unknown sources. And I began to pray about it, and I said, you know, God is the source of my supply, and I'm going to act like it. So, Father, I'm about your business. I'm doing the things that I really ought to be doing, and I'm really working at it, and I desire this good to come forth in my life. I have a need right now, and I'm holding it up for your Spirit to fill right now. Wasn't very long, just a few days later, then I got a letter in the mail. Now, this letter came from a place called Dover, Indiana. Now, I don't know anybody that lives in Dover, Indiana. That is, I didn't consciously know anybody that lived in Dover, Indiana. And so I looked at the letter, and I thought, well, what is this? And I opened it up, and there's one of those grocery flyers, you know, that they have in little towns that tell you all the specials for the day when you go into the grocery store. And someone had turned it over, and on the back of it had written a note and said, you know, I was impressed to send you this gift. And there was a check enclosed. She says, I remembered, it was from a woman, and she says, I remembered how gracious you were to my sister's children when we were at a retreat at Unity Village last summer. So out of a clear blue sky, at the time I needed it, and in an unknown way, the good came. And it was a very generous check, and I was most appreciative of it. But it came from an unknown source, something totally unexpected. I had given in love in the summer to these young people, and the good which I needed at a specific time came to me from unknown sources at the right time when I needed it in the right way. So the fulfillment can come from known sources, which are numerous, but from unknown sources, which are infinite. So be open to it. The next idea that we need to recognize is that the fulfillment is moving toward you. Accept it. The fulfillment is moving toward you. Accept it. You've named your desire. You know that the fulfillment exists. You know that there are infinite ways that it can come to you from known and unknown source. And now that you have named it, then you begin to accept it mentally. Begin to mentally accept that it is moving toward you and that nothing can keep it from you. That which is the desire of my heart is now moving toward me, and I am accepting it. I am accepting it. You know, we can work with this law because one of the first things I did with this formula after Jim had us write it was to decide that I really needed to have a way to go through school without all of the pressure of having to work 37 and a half hours a week in addition to going to school. So I began to get in this idea of working with my formula, and I said, now Martha, if it really works, it should work for everybody. And at that time, I felt as though that the students, the ministers in training, should have a way to be provided for without having to work long hours. So I wrote my little formula down, and I said, now look, there has to be a way that they can be provided for, and it has to be a way that we can get this substance rolling to us from spirit, and it has to come in ways which were good for everybody. So as I did this, I took my statement, wrote it down very clearly, exactly what I wanted, and I put it in my Bible. I put it in my Bible, and then I began to feel that it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, and that was in November. That was in November, around Thanksgiving time, and I really was giving thanks for this whole thing. And then in February, guess what happened? The school decided to put all of the ministers in training on a grant program. And they very generously provided a grant for the students who were in training at that particular time, relieve them of the responsibility of having to work, and put them on the grant so that we had that grant. And we had it all the rest of the time that I was in school. Now, I didn't work for Silent Unity. I worked for the field department. But the same grant system that had been applied to Silent Unity was given to me. So, you know, it doesn't matter what it is you need or desire. There is an answer when you accept it and when you believe in it and when you see it working for you. Then the next idea is taking needed steps in preparation for receiving it. You know, a lot of times we really want something. We really want to go around the world. But if you had the opportunity to go around the world tomorrow, would you be ready to go? No. You wouldn't even have any idea how you were going to get there or what you were going to do. You would really frantically say, well, no, I couldn't go because it takes me time to get ready. But if you really want to go around the world, what ought you be ready to do? You ought to have a passport. You ought to have your bags packed. You ought to know what you're going to take with you, all of the things that you would need to go around the world. And if you don't have those things ready, well, then what's going to happen? The opportunity to go could come and go without you, and go without you. I have this little friend in New York City who every time she wants to go on a trip, gets out her suitcase, packs it, and gets ready to go, and then just sits there and waits. And someone always calls her. Someone always calls her and says, I'm going to upstate New York. Would you like to go? Or, you know, I was getting ready to go down to the shore, and I really thought of you. And so she gets to go every time. We also have another friend who has what she calls a round-the-world dress. And every time she really wants to make an around-the-world trip, she puts on her around-the-world dress. And, you know, she's been around the world, I think it's 6 times. 6 times. Once, when I was lecturing in New York City at Eric Butterworth Center on a Saturday, I gave a lesson similar to this one on taking the needed steps. And many years later, right here at Unity Village, a woman was on retreat. And she came up to me and she says, you know, I know you. you're the lady who spoke on Saturday afternoon at the New York Center. She says, I know you because I heard you say that you have to get ready for your good, that you have to make preparation for it. She said, and I had been trying to rent a room for 2 or 3 months, and I was unable to rent that room. And then when you were talking about this, I suddenly realized that I was waiting until I got a renter to finish up the room, to really clean it thoroughly and get it ready for the renter, you know? And she says, so I went home from that lecture and I started cleaning that room and I got it ready for the renter. And she says, you know, I wasn't even 2/3 through when the right person called in answer to the ad and was there. And that room was rented to a person who stayed with me for many, many long years. It was a good renter. So she had to get ready. You want a new rug? What are you going to do? Wait until you get the rug before you clean the floor? No, get the floor ready. Get yourself ready mentally, emotionally, for whatever it is. If you're going to work in a job, get yourself ready for it. Okay? Then, of course, giving thanks that it is yours now. You know, Jesus taught us this lesson, that giving thanks in advance assures the right outcome. Did he wait until after Lazarus walked out of the tomb to give thanks? No, he said, Father, I thank you. Know that you hear me and that you have always heard me, that you always hear me. So really, when we need something, we need to give thanks for it. We need to give thanks for it and to say, Father, I know you hear me, and I know you have always heard me, and I give thanks for this good that is coming to me now. And then, of course, you have to release and let God bring about the fulfillment. You have to release and let go. You go through your actions, you do all the work, and the 7th day of creation is the day of rest. And that's the day that you rest, and when God's activity goes to work, bringing to you the good that you desire. Because the important thing about releasing it is our vision is limited. We may only be seeing limited ways in which this good can manifest in our life. But God's channels are infinite, limitless. And the good can come to us in known and unknown ways, in wonderfully good ways. When we declare that the good can come to us through God's infinite channels, it does. It does. I think that we can all think of times in our lives where we have experienced this good coming to us, through us, from infinite channels. When I was on vacation one time, I had an experience with my car, and it cost me more money than I had expected to spend on the vacation. So I was a little short. So while I was on the vacation, I was declaring that this good was going to come to me and return to me, pressed down, running over, multiplied. And so I made the trip all the way to California and all the way back again, and my bank account was a little on the shy side. And when I got back, in the mail, there was a check from a cousin of mine, and once again she says, you know, she says, I was just thinking about you and what you were doing, and I was impressed to send this gift to you. And you know, that gift more than compensated for all of the challenge that I had had. So when you release, when you let go, when you let God bring about the fulfillment, then it comes in ways that are totally unexpected from totally unexpected source. So our genie of prosperity is our positive feelings. The genie of prosperity is our positive feelings that we have about the good that God has prepared for us, because our positive feelings increase our prospering power now. Our positive feelings increase our prospering power now. Let's say that in a me way. My positive feelings increase my prospering power now. Together, my positive feelings increase my prospering power now. When? Now. Good. And then the one that we learned this morning that will really put that genie to work in our life, Loving giving brings me prosperous living. Together. Loving giving brings me prosperous living. Once more. Loving giving brings me prosperous living. Once more. Loving giving brings me prosperous living. When? Now. When? Now. When? Now. Good. Okay. That's our lesson for this morning. And be sure to pick up your copy of the formula on your way out.